So I just upgraded from my iPhone 11 to the new base model iPhone 17, and before I trade in the 11, I thought it'd be interesting to compare the cameras. Usually phone cameras are just slightly improved each year where it's not actually worth it just to upgrade for the camera, but what's the difference like after 6 generations? So I'm gonna go over some of the main differences between the two phone cameras and then also the available features on each. And of course, at the end, I'll be doing a side-by-side camera quality comparison with all of them. And by the way, as I'm recording this, we just hit 10,000 subscribers, and I don't have enough fingers and toes to count that high, so that's pretty awesome, thank you. So starting with the new and exciting iPhone 17, you have two 48 megapixel camera sensors on the back. One is the standard 26 millimeter, and then the other is the 0.5 times 13 millimeter ultra wide. And the ultra wide also has some good macro capabilities, so that can come in handy when you're getting a close up. And in the default camera app, you can digitally zoom up to 10 times for photo, and I believe 6 times for video. And on the iPhone Pros, you get a telephoto lens, which this does lack. I wish it had it. And something that's new to me that I actually have been barely able to test yet is the camera control button, which I'm looking forward to using later. I just figured out how it works, and you can control a lot of things from here, which is pretty convenient. And although I'm personally not much of a selfie guy, there are some huge improvements on the 17s. And this year that's a 20 millimeter lens, so it's nice and wide, and it's at 18 megapixels. And specifically on the video side, you can now get dual capture, which is a new feature, and I think it's kind of fun. And with all of that, of course, it comes with probably the biggest, most useful, at least to me, improvement on the selfie camera, and that's the wide angle reframe, even when you're holding your phone vertically. Especially if you're just trying to take a picture, it's like, oh, no one's fitting. Oh, now everyone's fitting. And the 17 can record up to 4K 60 frames per second, or if you flip it in the slow motion mode, you can get up to 240 frames per second in HD. You can record in HDR, but unfortunately you can't record in Apple ProRes Log or now ProRes RAW. That's only for the Pro phones, which I would like to have that feature, but this is plenty. Now you can record spatial video, which is like 3D, but I don't have an Apple Vision Pro, so I really don't know if I'm gonna hit on that in this video or ever, to be honest. But hey, it's a feature there and it's cool. But what I will hit on this video is the new to me, cinematic mode, which adds some background blur, and also the action mode, which just adds some extra stabilization. And although it's not directly a part of video, it is needed for video, and that's storage. The 17 came with double the base storage as the 16, and 4 times the storage on my iPhone 11. So that's definitely helpful. When I was recording a video testing my iPhone 11 camera to my main Sony FX3 camera, it kept running out of storage, and that caused a lot of problems. Not exactly the ideal video experience. And as far as the iPhone 11, it has the same back two cameras, at least in terms of it being a 26 millimeter and a 13 millimeter 0.5 times ultra wide. But each of these only has 12 megapixels, which is 4 times less than the iPhone 17. Now, when it comes to video, megapixels aren't everything. Actually, the camera I'm recording on right now only has 12 megapixels, but it also has a full frame sensor, which by itself is the size of this entire top part of my phone. And it's also where a lot of the noticeable quality differences come from. Megapixels really tend to stand out when it comes to photos. There's just extra detail to zoom into. And sensor size tends to stand out for videos because it can allow better low light performance, more depth of field, and things like that. And I believe the only way to actually take advantage of all 48 megapixels in the sensor is by taking photos. I think for video, each of these phones only record at about 8 megapixels per frame, so now I'm even more interested to see the difference between these. And as you might be able to see, in terms of the sensor size between the two phones, the 17's is about 3 times bigger, so there should be a pretty big quality difference there. But the front cam on the 11 is also incredibly underwhelming. It's a 23 millimeter lens instead of a 20 millimeter, and it's sitting at 12 megapixels, which is 6 less than the iPhone 17's 18 megapixels. This is so many numbers. On the 11, you can only digitally zoom in 5 times for photos and 3 times in videos. And also for videos, the max recording is 4K 30 frames per second. And I believe you could do 240 frames per second, but only in 720p for slow motion. It doesn't have HDR, it doesn't have cinematic mode, it doesn't have action mode, and it definitely doesn't have Apple ProRes Log or RAW. And yeah, that's it for the iPhone 11. What's most important at the end of the day is the actual visual differences that I mean, you're gonna be able to see for yourself, or maybe not see for yourself. So I have 6 quick test shots that I'm gonna get with both phones, and as you can see, I have my 11 already set up, and you might be able to guess I'm testing the ultra wide camera first. And I almost always avoided using the ultra wide on my 11 just because it got so like grainy in lower light. Okay, the 11 is done. Now time for the 17 here. Let's pop that into 0.5. Okay, that should be a good little side-by-side test there. You know, according to Apple, their words, not mine, 4 times the quality in the ultra wide. So doing the math, you carry the 1, multiply, it should be like 8 times the quality of the iPhone 11s. For our next shot, we're gonna grab one of this. And you might not be able to see that, but hopefully with the macro capabilities of these cameras, maybe we can. So our goal is just to get as close as possible. This is just in the 1x. I believe in 0.5, you can get a little closer. See, even that close, that's just not quite in focus. And actually, it looks like the 1x zoom is a little better. So it looks like that's the closest we're getting with the iPhone 11 that natively doesn't have any support for macro. So let's see how the iPhone 17 does. And with the 1x, we're already closer. And I gotta say, just generally, the iPhone 17 screen is brighter, better in every single way. It's taking up the entirety of the frame on 1x. On 0.5x, we're practically touching it here. We are pretty close and comfortable right now. I'll grab a recording there. That is a obviously much better performance than the 11, as expected though. Now I have this shot set up here, which is pretty much what I would do for my regular video using my real regular camera, my Sony FX3. So I'd be curious to see how it holds up. Right now I'm on the iPhone 11 to start out with, and now I'm on the iPhone 17 in the default mode. I am going to test the cinematic mode. It's an artificial background blur. It's not like real depth of field that you would get in like my Sony FX3. But honestly, I think it's a great feature. You might not want to overuse it, but I think for especially a shot like this, it can really just add a layer of, well, depth. But I am curious to see how it holds up because this is, again, the first phone I've ever had with it. I think the most underrated way generally to record video is using slow motion. It's like the only way possible to slow down time. And I think that's cool. So I'm gonna be going as slow motion as possible with both of these phones, starting with the iPhone 11. If we pop that into slow motion, we can go 720p, 240 frames. And you can see the focus kind of jumping. So if you actually tap and hold, it locks and holds the focus to that spot, which is a cool little tip. Start that. Now for the iPhone 17. I want to see if I could set this whole thing up using the camera control button. I believe if I tap it, it opens it up. And if I kind of like half press it, I can get the zoom, which that's cool. And if I double tap it like that, I can switch it from camera, styles, tone, depth, exposure. I guess I can't change the mode. Well, I got far enough for me. So if we go to video, we can scroll past cinematic to slow motion, and you can see it still records in 240 frames, but it's in HD, which is 1080p, which is higher quality than the 11. So let's give this a go. I mean, I say this every time for every single shot. It's going to be interesting to see the results there because it's the same frames per second, just a different level of quality and different cameras and sensors too. So, okay, now this one's easy because I'm just testing the selfie cameras, so I don't really have to set up much of a shot here. I am the shot. And just by looking at the screens here, I can already tell there's a difference of noise. The iPhone 17 looks a lot cleaner. And putting them side by side, you can see that the 11 is a little bit tighter while the 17 is a little more wide. Now for a selfie camera, you probably want it a little wider. So it looks like if you start recording on the 17 vertically, you can't auto reframe it. But if you stop the recording and then click it, and then just like that, I'm still holding it vertically and it's recording horizontally. Now this is way more comfortable for me. Also, if you ever happen to record something in public, this just looks like you're on your phone. It's a lot more natural looking instead of walking around like this, which is obviously, people are gonna know what you're doing. And I'm too scared to have social interaction. People ask what I'm recording. Now finally, for the last shot, it's, just gonna be a pretty basic B-roll kind of shot, but there are a few apps out there that kind of allow you to unlock the full potential of your phone's camera. There's Final Cut Camera, or what I use, and it is also on Android, Blackmagic Camera. So believe it or not, it actually is still supported on iPhone 11. So I'm gonna take a look at that. So if you ever used like a real professional camera, these are pretty much all the same settings. So starting with the lens, I'm gonna do just the default lens. White balance, we can cool down to maybe 5200. And the ISO, I'll increase up to about 60. The ISO is usually where your camera gets like grainy or noisy, so being able to actually control that is really helpful. And we'll just get a shot like that, making it look like I'm doing a lot of work here. So I've set up and dialed in the exact same settings on the 17 now. And just for comparison's sake, on the 17, I'm also gonna record it just on the default camera app to see the differences there. And apparently the camera control actually integrates with Blackmagic camera, so that's cool. But now it's time to take a look at the footage side by side, and that's truly where the differences will be seen, if there are any, but I hope there are. Otherwise, I just partially wasted my money upgrading. So the first shot was the ultra wide at my desk here. And if you look in the corner, you can see a ton of noise. That is not a very good looking video. So if we switch it over to the iPhone 17, it's like the noise just disappears. It got Thanos snap. You know, maybe Apple wasn't lying when they said they made a lot of improvements to the ultra wide on the 17. I mean, this is looking pretty good. It's actually usable now. Now the next shot was macro, or whatever you want to call this, attempt from the iPhone 11. This was the closest we were able to get it on either of the two back cameras. Not very close. I'm very shaky in that video. But if we go to the 17s, like my phone is pretty much touching it. So I mean, it is pretty niche when you're gonna need to get a shot this close, but just the fact that you can on the 17, it just makes it more versatile. I mean, like, it's a phone camera. This device is used for texting and calling, and you can record video. And apparently macro video. The next shot's gonna look something like this. It's my A-roll setup, and this is the iPhone 11. Like, that looks pretty good, honestly. There's a little bit of noise, especially in these darker areas, and my face does look kind of like overly smooth and plasticky. You know, I'd have a little skincare routine, but not like that. But if you take a look like outside the window, or I mean, even just in the background there, it's all kind of in focus. There's not much like depth of field like you would get in a camera like this. Now, if we switch this over to the iPhone 17, you can see there's almost more, I guess, dynamic range. My hair looks less just splotchy and dark. There's just like a little more detail there. And there is a little bit more depth of field. It's not that noticeable, to be honest. And on the 11, if you take a look at the couch here, or in this corner here, and then we go back to the 17, all of that noise is gone. It's out of there. And when it comes to video, that makes a huge difference. So that's definitely a pro when it comes to the 17's camera. I mean, not that the 11 ever stood a chance in this video, but like the point of this video is just to see like how far the cameras have come over many generations, not just like one, which is what most comparisons are testing. And I also tried the cinematic camera. You know, at first glance, not very good. It looks like it kind of just cut me out, like green screen style, and blurred the background a little too much. Like if you kind of take a look at normal versus the cinematic mode, it does its job. It blurs out the background a little more. As far as like a video of me talking directly to the camera, I'm not sure I'd use it because that just looks kind of fake. I would honestly just prefer the normal camera mode. But for something like a little B-roll shot, in the first 15 seconds of the 17 unboxing video, I actually used this phone to record a shot in cinematic mode of the box because I already had my camera packed away, and I'm like, oh, let's try this out. And I think it cut into the video very well. And I think for little shots like that in the future, I will be using the cinematic mode. Now next is the more fun slow motion shot. We have the 720p, very grainy and noisy iPhone 11 video. But in terms of the slow motion itself, like the fact you can get 240 frames on like a, what, 6-year-old phone, that's pretty good. Like it doesn't look the best, but if you're expecting the best, you probably need to lower your expectations. And if you take a look at the 17 slow motion here, you can tell it's much better quality, looks a lot sharper, again, a lot less noise, a lot of the same things in all the other shots. And again, it's looking pretty slow, but that's a good thing in this case. So we got the front cam on the 11. Like it's what you expect. It's just like a pretty default selfie camera, but I think it's slightly less of a snore fest when you move to the 17 because I think it's actually noticeably wider. And again, the 17 has a 20mm front cam. The 11 has a 23mm. So the 3mm does make a difference. But to me, what's most exciting about the selfie cam is of course the reframing. Now you can hold it like this, again, super comfortable, and it spits out this. Now the actual like file is recorded vertically. You don't have the black bars on top like it shows on screen. Like it's actually good enough to the point that this feature is what I'll be using to record myself on my phone if I ever need to. And that's just like for me. If you have like, what are they called? friends and you're trying to take like a selfie and no one's fitting in it, and you gotta hold it vertically and then try to figure out how to click the snapshot button. Like, that's just not a problem anymore. You just click one button, everyone's in frame. And I think that's a great little update, Apple, and I'm sure other people could appreciate it even more than me. Now, finally, we broke out the good old Blackmagic camera, and that's the same company that makes DaVinci Resolve, which is like one of the most popular video editing softwares. So they know their stuff. And between the iPhone 11 on Blackmagic and the 17 on Blackmagic, it's the same things we talked about. The noise, just the overall general quality is going to be better on the 17. But I'm glad I got this extra shot, because what's most interesting here is the 17 with Blackmagic to the 17 without Blackmagic. Between the two, I think you can tell a pretty big difference in terms of post-processing or not. In this case, I actually might like the regular app better, but I think that's probably because I screwed up the white balance. But I will say, I do feel like the Blackmagic app just looks a little more richer, and I think that's, again, probably due to the lack of post-processing. And again, these shots I think would look way better on a telephoto lens. I can't even imagine how good that would be, but I'm gonna have to imagine it because I don't have it. But I think if you know how to use like an actual camera, take the time to properly dial in the settings, Carter, with the Blackmagic camera app, I mean, it doesn't matter which phone you're using. I think generally you can get better results out of it. At the minimum, you have more control, which for some people, depending on what you're doing, is better. And again, this is all just on the base model 17. I talked myself out of getting the Pro or Pro Max because the main reason I would want that is for the cameras. I have an amazing camera. If I ever need the extra quality, I wouldn't be grabbing my phone, I would be grabbing my Sony FX3, rightfully so. So, to absolutely nobody's surprise, there are quite a few improvements 6 generations later when it comes to iPhone cameras. But was it like enough for you to be surprised? I don't know. I think for me it was expected, but it's always a welcomed upgrade. So even though I got the base model, I think it's still good to know that in terms of phone cameras, this is still an upgrade for me. But thank you for watching, and if you want to see some more iPhone 17 related content, feel free to subscribe.